Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devin Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Seven Man, Sejan Sarowick.
Yes, it is I, the great hero Seven Man. I don't know how this bit is going to play with anybody that doesn't know what we were just talking about.
I mean, we were sort of doing an improv there, where you had to be Seven Man.
No, Seven Man is here, and he's still confused about the bit, though.
I don't know. I feel like it didn't add up. Let's subtract it from this episode. We can multiply our losses and divide them later.
Yes, well, Seven Man was always a villain anywhere.
Really? I would have never guessed that Seven Man was a villain. You're right. I don't know
pretty
where.
Obvious. It was very obvious that he was a villain.
I don't know. 7 is the luckiest number. It's not like 13, man.
But we all know that 7, 8, 9.
Ba-ba-ba. That's a good way to end the bit. You did it. You win. You win money. I'm sorry. Welcome to the Say Report. I feel like we haven't done this in 100 years.
Well, time is a construct. But yeah, man, I agree. It's been a hot second since we've been together. So much so that we felt the need to get together a couple of days early. So if anything happens in the next 3 days, we apologize for not addressing anything that happened over the weekend.
This is a rare early weekend Say Report. So we didn't forget about it. We recorded it early.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
That doesn't make up for all the other weeks when we ignored major shit, but it makes up for this one.
A lot of the times, the major shit happens on the Monday. Let's just be honest, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, Diana Riggs doesn't really count, but
damn.
No, she counts. And R.I.P. Diana Riggs. I was weirdly floored when I read the news yesterday, but
yeah, weird. I mean, I think we talked about this. The last time
Hello? Sejan?
Like, I'm becoming more and more numb to 2020 in general, and I feel really bad about that. But we had some big shit happen this week. But we're like, Dev, like anything going on in your personal life that you want to address first before we get to some of the bigger news?
I mean, yeah, I did want to lead off by saying that you are listening to, and Sejan is speaking with, half of the first sibling team to get a verified world record in hard co-op mode on River City Girls.
Very nice. Slow clap. I just want to... There you go.
I appreciate it. And we still have it as of this recording.
Nice.
It is exhausting to have a world record in a video game. I'm just going to say that in a way that I didn't expect, honestly. Like, I feel like there's been a little part of my brain that's always known maybe this isn't actually the thing you want to go for. But then River City Girls last Saturday, so the 5th of September, celebrated its 1-year anniversary, which if there's anything that proves time is a fucking construct, River City Girls is only a year old, Sejan.
Only, man, oh my god, that is okay. I'm feeling like older every moment, but then also younger. I can't tell if I'm trapped in fucking Logan's Run or Zardoz. Like I can't tell.
Nice, solid reference to Zardoz. Logan's Run, I feel like everybody gets. I feel like I've just been wading through Logan's Run references for the past 2 weeks. I'm not sure why.
Close Enough had a very good one when it first premiered a couple of months ago, and I think since then it's just kind of been on my mind.
It was Zero Punctuation that talked about if he hadn't watched Logan Run at 13, if he hadn't just like come upon a screening of it at 2 a.m., his life would be different. Because that's where Jenny Agata comes from. Like for the sexual awakening of an entire generation of, you know, British-born gentlemen and ladies. Let's not be, close-minded in 2020. Jenny Agata was the first one that sort of gave him the lip trembles, the vinegar strokes.
Oh man, I feel like there's like a holy trifecta of that like British sci-fi sexual awakening, and that is Logan's Run, Zardoz, and Life Force. Like I feel like everybody has seen at least one of those at like 2 o'clock in the morning one day, and that is what like awoken them in that generation. I mean, like that is it's one of those three movies for everybody that where they finally realize like Yeah, something was in me.
Fourth man for that team, right? Usually it's a sixth man, but I can't think of two more. I can only think of one other one, and it's the Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man, not the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man, which brings
That
us
one
back to Ghost Rider.
man
Kaboom.
fucked me, which nobody else understands.
Yeah,
But that's man, Wicker Man's a hard one because the thing is like in the other three, including Logan's Run, as much as I love this movie, is batshit insane, and a 12-year-old like watching it isn't taking in what's happening so much as just kind of experiencing it, which is literally what we're talking about, right? Like experiencing this image on screen and not knowing where it came from, and it's gone before we thought. So like fast forward, pause, zoom, do whatever you need to. Like that whole attitude of like of development from that, I feel like as somebody that saw Wicker Man way too young, like that is I would there was too much else going on for that to be a thing for me. But
but so here's the really crazy thing about that. You saw Wicker Man too young. Like I think that
Mhm,
we'll all agree that you saw Wicker Man too young, but you
mhm.
didn't see it young enough where like some people who like point to that movie as their identifying realization of like sexuality and
Yep.
attractiveness, because there are people in the world who look at that movie for that, which boggles my mind.
Yes, that is mind-boggling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can forgive you some Life Force because I mean, like Patrick Stewart is there. There's a lot of Saran wrap going on. It's, but I cannot forgive you, Wicker Man.
Honestly, I gotta tell you, like it's one of those things where you said Life Force, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know if Life Force is the one that is one of my starting three. I think it's Wicker Man, just
Mm.
because of personal anecdotal evidence, not my own personal anecdotal evidence.
I'll be honest. I meant everybody gets one out of that list, and
Oh,
and so
right,
like
and
if you got all three out of that list, then you had a very eventful
I think that's
childhood.
how we get like a David Beckham, right, or a Russell, what's his name, Russell Brand.
Yeah, yep, that's exactly it. That's how you get a Russell Brand. Is you fucking sit them down. Fucking, I was gonna say Clockwork Orange style, but that might also be another one.
No, it's David Beckham if it's Logan's Run, Zardoz, and Life Force. It's Russell Brand if it's Logan's Run, Zardoz, and Wicker Man. And
There you
that
go.
right there's the X factor. Jesus Christ. What are we
Oh,
talking? We were talking about River City Girls. And
yeah,
then
man.
somehow
Well,
we
so
got down this.
a long talked about game on this show. This is not new. The game itself is not new to the show, but you were partaking in some world records with it, man. What's going on?
Yeah, so to celebrate, I thought it might be fun. And I need to tell you, this came up Thursday night. Like Thursday, I realized that the 1 year anniversary of River City Girls was coming up. And after I screamed into a pillow for 17 to 18 minutes straight, because I can't believe that was only a year ago. I can't believe that the game is only a year old. Just with the amount that I have played it and talked about it, and the fact that 2020 has been, 7 full watches of the unedited, extended Lord of the Rings trilogy, longer than it should be. Well, you want to talk about false endings?
Yeah, yep.
Back up, Return of the King. There's a new king, and it's the year 2020. And I couldn't believe it. But when I heard it, I'm like, all right, so I want to celebrate. I want to celebrate. And the best way that I could think to celebrate was by sitting down on the day and doing the entire achievement list or trophy list if you're a PlayStation player, which I am, in one sitting, in one go. So without any preparation at all. The most preparation was we sat down to play through on hard mode to see how hard is hard mode.
All right, okay. And
And
well, I mean, like, spoiler alert. I like we've already mentioned that you guys done did it. So
right,
like,
yeah. And that was, Dale looked at it and was like, nobody has the record for this. And I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong. Do we want to start this off with us speed running the hard co-op mode? And we agreed that that was the perfect kickoff to this thing. So we did it. We hit some rough patches. I mean, there's definitely time that can be saved on that, right? Which is why
mhm.
it's stressful to have it, because like I'm in possession of it now, and I was the first, right? Dale and I were the first. No one can take that away from us, right? We are the Edmund Hillary of the world record hard co-op River City Girls speedrun, right?
Damn, talking about deep pulls, but yeah, yes.
Is Edmund Hillary a deep? It is. In 2020, I bet there are people who don't know who that is.
So you guys scored this world record, and now you're spending every waking moment fearing it's going to be ripped away from you.
Fearing it's going to be ripped away. And then there's also the people who, once they found out about it, they're like, you should do a victory lap and do it again. And it's like, I'm not like really in a rush to run the game again. I'll be honest with you. Like, it was fun, but it's not one of those things where I watch these speedrunners on Twitch and they play the same game over and over and over again to save seconds. And like that's not fun to me. Like, I'll play River City Girls again. Of course I will. I've played it so many times already in its 1 year. Like, we beat it 4 times on Saturday. And and before that, I think like we had beat it 8 times in a weekend once. Like, just for fun.
Sounds right. Yeah, no, it sounds right. We'll go back and we'll review the tapes, but yeah, it sounds about right.
But doing the platinum list was fun until we had one trophy less, and that's the 100% completion trophy. And we just both forgot how that one worked, which is why we probably added 2 hours to our time that we didn't need. We did a whole other run through of the game that was not required. Essentially, all we needed to do was walk into one room that we hadn't walked into, because the completion is about visiting every location on the game's map, which seems strange when there are so many other things to do, like items to buy and foods to eat and enemies to capture, like Pokemon. And nothing in the game to indicate what it is that is required to get that 100%. Like, you just need to guess. And so
all right, man. Yeah, I mean, you know, you guys have the benefit of a year out of research and stuff like that, but yeah, that is super annoying.
Yeah, but that's what we did. It took us 8 hours and 25 minutes to platinum the game again, and that one, without a doubt, I think we could save 2 hours on that time. Now that there's no speed run for doing that, I mean, we can say that. Like, I don't know of anybody out there who has like a full platinum run of the game, and even then, that included an hour break for the Kentucky Derby. Like, we didn't do it straight through. We kept the timer running for that hour while we ate chicken and drank, what are those things called? Mint juleps?
Mint juleps, yeah, there you go.
It's weird.
Did you wear big old hats?
I don't wear big old hats. I wear tight form-fitting hats, but the ladies wore their big hats for the Kentucky Derby. It was weird having the Kentucky Derby in September, which... I don't know. Is there anything personal you'd like to talk about? Because there's something that's kind of stuck in my craw that I'd like to address in this episode.
Mama Sarowick won $18 on the Kentucky Derby, but that's about it in terms of that.
Congratulations, Mama Sarowick. You can get pizza from Domino's, but the delivery charge is going to, bump it over $18.
Yeah, you're gonna bump it over. But no, man. What like about the Kentucky Derby? Like something got up in you about the Kentucky Derby?
It's something about sports in general got up in my craw, and I'd like to deal with it in some way, shape, or form. Like, well, let's start with the ones that I think are kind of doing it the best, even though I don't think our country should be trying to go back to business as usual. I think that's what bothers me most of all. That is my personal hot take about the world that we currently reside in.
Watch it out. We got a badass over here. Like, I don't think that you're alone in feeling that way. Let me put it that way for you.
Thank you for the watch out. We got a badass over here. See, nobody cares.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, we have talked about this. Is that we have a number of people in this country that want to quote unquote get back to normal, not realizing that we never will be. Like, we can't. There is no normal to get back to. There's a new normal we need to get used to, and a lot of it is dealing with things like we should still be distancing and things like that. But yeah, no, you're not wrong.
And it really came to a head for me. Like, the Kentucky Derby was still like people piled on people. Like, you can't get away from the fact that that event was still people on top of people. And the like, brush it aside, we don't need to worry, is it's outside. And it's like, yeah, but there's still, like, you're right next to that person.
Yeah, you
you
still need to be distancing, and you still need to be like wearing masks, and you still need to be doing all of this other stuff. Like, like it's oh man.
yeah,
It's
like,
like driving in a giant ass car and thinking you don't need to wear a seatbelt. And it's like, no, you still need to wear a seatbelt. Just because you're the biggest thing on the road doesn't mean shit.
yeah, you don't have roll bars in there, stuntman Mike. But yeah, like, so that's it. But then watching football last night, the first game of the 2020, 2021, or I guess 2020, 2021, that's how we're supposed to be saying it, right? NFL season,
Yeah.
I had to stop. And it's not just seeing like there's only 13,000 people there. Like, people kept saying that there are only 13,000 people in the stands, and it's like that's still a lot of people.
Yep. Yep. That's still 13,000 lives that are at risk. Yeah, I know. You know, it's weird because, like, on the one hand, it's nice to see that people are taking it seriously enough where they're doing things like distancing groups and all that, and people need to. I don't know, man. I just don't know. Like, I wish that somebody in this country would act like a leader and just say no. Like, we're not doing A, B, or C. Like, just take the fucking hit. But man, it's money. Like, they need to start making money again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And so, but rather than stop our economy in the beginning, right? We've just tried
Hmm.
to learn to live with it, which is a very American thing to do, right? Is like these people who have cockroaches or mice in their house, and it's just like, we live with it, right? Like, like,
Yeah, we're very proud of our adapt and overcome attitude.
and it's like, but this isn't one of those things that we adapt and or overcome. Also,
Hmm.
like, benefited by the fact that every day we hear a vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. So it's like, are we adapting and trying to overcome, or are we trying to defeat it? Like, we're acting one way, we're saying another thing, and then a third result is what is being presented every time I
Yeah,
look at it.
yeah,
But then the other thing, like, getting over the fact that there are 13,000 people in here, and, even though they've been in the bubble, they haven't been in the bubble together. The Texans and the Chiefs weren't like staying in one hotel together, right? I mean, I might be wrong about that, but as far as I know, the Texans traveled to Chiefs Stadium for the game last night. And even if they were together for a week, like,
right.
there's still a lot of people on
I
top of
know.
each
I
other.
mean, we know that people. We know that if you give people an inch, they'll take a mile. That has been proven time and time and time again in human history, not just this country's history, not just the NFL's history. Like, in human history, like, if you give anybody a chance, they will take it and then take advantage of it. Like, that's you and people don't understand that, like, when we talk about being prepared, the end of that sentiment that we never really express is for the worst, right? Like when people talk about having like a bug out bag to be prepared for the worst, like so when we talk about like we need to make these plans and we need to have these ideas and we need to have these, we need to have a leader that comes out and says, like, here are the steps we're going to take, this is the playbook for this situation. Like, they're not saying that part, and people are thinking, well, because they're not talking about it as being that bad, I can assume it's not that bad. And it's like, no, like we're all adults here. We all understand that what they're talking about is like these precautions are all in place, assuming that you are going to like also take your own precautions, like. And it's like nobody everybody is behaving, and not everybody, but like a lot of people are behaving like I'm not going to do anything unless I'm told I have to, but also nobody's going to tell me I have to do this thing. Nobody has the right to tell me I have to do this thing. And it's like, which is it? Like, are we a country of people that are so good at taking care of ourselves that, as like a libertarian, like would say like everybody should just take care of themselves, but like common sense shows you that like people, there are going to be some people that just don't. What do we do about them, you know?
Right. You and it's just frustrating, especially because you turn on like football and you see that, and that's being like, football is one of the most popular things in this country, right?
Yep.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, right? It's everybody loves football, which is one of the reasons why this huge money making machine cannot lie dormant a second longer than it has to, right?
Yeah.
But you have all these people who are seeing it, and that is the kind of like signaling that says everything's okay. Football is being played. Everything is fine. Because that's being shown to you. We can be told what we're told every day by news sources and by our president. But when you see, oh, these guys are still playing football and there's still going to be a normal schedule all weekend, like, it just seems counterintuitive to the narrative.
Uh-huh. Yeah, man, I know. And the problem is that, again, the exact same people that are going to take in that image and run with it and think everything must be getting better are also the exact kind of people that will tell you that they don't think that way. They don't that they're smart enough to say, well, I know this, but I can also explain that, like, because I'm a complex human, I can have these two things going on at once in my life. And it's like, and I don't want to call anybody like less than. I don't want to call anybody stupid. I don't want to say, and I'm not saying that people are like sheep because they follow specific people and not others and things like that. It's just, if you're gonna talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. If you're going to behave like you are an adult, if you're gonna say I get to do these things because I'm an American, then like go all the way with it. Like like educate yourself in the best way possible. And I cannot imagine that somebody that is making the decisions to like go to a football game in the middle of all of this is really kind of looking at all of the facts. Because if they were, they wouldn't be going to these things.
Maybe, like, again, I don't want to be disparaging to anybody like that, and certainly you need something to get through this, right? Like, that sense of normalcy is a coping mechanism for a lot of people, but just being the person watching it, it's exhausting. It's exhausting seeing it. And then this isn't even the big cross stick, right? This is all the stuff that I was also dealing with. So the NFL has been wrapped up in the controversy of the fact that there is racial injustice in this country longer than really any other sport out there, right? You look at Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem, and that blew up. Right? 3 years ago.
At least this particular wave of of fighting for racial injustice. This particular wave, definitely, you could point to a lot of the origins of things like the Black Lives Matter movement and things like that, to specifically Kaepernick and the NFL and kneeling during the anthem, for sure.
Right. And they did not really handle that in the best way possible 3 years ago. And I'm disappointed to report that they're continuing to not handle it in the best way possible.
Yeah.
I am reminded of an episode of South Park where the girls volleyball team has a game, and it's a packed house for the girls volleyball game. And then after the national anthem and everybody got to see which girls stood or kneeled or how they reacted when the national anthem played for that girls volleyball game, everybody left. And the discussion wasn't about the girls volleyball team, but rather about how people reacted and what they did during the national anthem.
Yeah.
And that is Matt and Trey trying to, bring to light the fact that we don't even care about the game anymore. We're more focused on the controversy. So when I'm watching the first NFL game of this season, and the announcers are talking about the Texans electing to stay inside of the locker room for both the singing of that song about unity and the national anthem, while the Chiefs out on the field half and holding standing together in unity. And it's just like, comedy has become life at that point. Like, this is really what you guys are talking about? This is what people care about? This is why people are watching football? And it just seems like such an... They're compensating for how poorly they handled it 3 years ago by letting Colin Kaepernick go, and all of the, like, knee-jerk reactions that Roger Goodell had to that situation. It's this overcompensation that then borders on exploitation of what's going on in the world today to appeal to these people, to be like, don't worry, the NFL's got your back. And it was one thing with the NBA and the whole, here's a list of approved phrases that you can have on the back of your jersey to show you're in solidarity with these things. Like, that was kind of fucked up. That, like, you can't choose to protest or show your support in your own way. You have to pick the pre-approved, commercially friendly ones.
This franchise sanctioned version of protesting that's not protesting, guys. Yeah. Like, the whole point of a protest is to disrupt. So if you make like rules and guidelines for it, you've kind of fucked up and missed the point of like what.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just got taken to the nth degree watching the first game of the season, to the point that as much as I couldn't just watch these people where it seemed like take their lives in their own hands for money, like, at the end of the day, that's the reason why football is happening right now, right? It's because football makes money. And if football didn't make money, these guys probably wouldn't be playing this game and taking their lives in their hands. I mean, across the board, look at Tuukka Rask taking himself out of the playoffs in the NHL finals because he's like, I have a family that I care about. I can't risk my life just to play hockey. And then, the secondary McGullen of that is the fact that NHL players do not get paid for the playoffs. Their contracts end before the playoffs. So essentially you're playing for free, and then hopefully, you'll get the bonuses. Your life for free. So now you're risking your life for free. And like, hockey is one of those games that is definitely played for the love of the game. Like, I don't think about money when I think about hockey. And I just think maybe that's, because I grew up playing that one, and I loved playing hockey, and I can totally understand the rush and exhilaration of that sort of being like, to be doing it on a professional level being enough to drive it. But my entire life, I mean, even hockey with Wayne Gretzky, right? I think about the Pro Stars. Remember the Pro Stars? Is that like too deep a cut for anybody but me?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about with the Pro Star stuff, but like, we're in a whole new realm with sports anyways. So
right. But let's come back with me to the early 90s. I'm going to say like 1992. Don't fact check me on that, people. These are going deep into my memories. CBS still had Saturday morning cartoons, and they did a cartoon called The Pro Stars, which was essentially the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles without Donatello, and instead of, turtles, it was Michael Jordan as Leonardo, Wayne Gretzky as Michelangelo, and Bo Jackson as Raphael.
Amazing pulls. Yep. Yeah, fantastic. Right? All around.
And but think about just how big a deal those three guys were, not just in their sports, but to the world.
Right.
And that's the same way that, you could have a Superman comic from the 30s and it's worth millions of dollars in the 90s. We were told that if you play sports real good, you can be a millionaire. Right. Like, I feel like that was the lesson that was given to our generation.
Well, yeah, I mean, and especially because I don't think anybody would argue with this, but with the way that things got out of hand with the NBA specifically, and the ways at which guys were making money hand over fist in that, in those different franchises there, and you point to somebody like Michael Jordan being a prime example of it, but like there's tons of examples of it. Dennis Rodman, you think of I'm trying to think of some of the guys nowadays, like you have like LeBron James, you have, you had Kobe Bryant, and like the ways in which you looked at these guys and they transcended the sport they were playing. And that was always kind of the promise, is that the sport was just going to be a stepping stone to celebrity. And like I that's when things start to get into this weird realm of like, as a sports fan, you really start to wonder like what is going on in this sport. Like, these people aren't here to play the game. They're here just as like a drive-by, just to like show off for a little bit so that they can earn their right to like be on the next season of the Kardashians. And like, it's easy to fall into that cynical hole. It really is easy to fall into that with sports and stuff like that nowadays. But you also have to think about it from like the perspective of the fact that like these dudes are also like humans, right? Like, they're not just there for entertainment. They're not like, it's not like gladiator days when like these guys lived, eat, and breathe their sports. Like, they're not allowed off the compound. They are only here to play basketball. Like, that also is like a mentality that exists in this world that we just don't hear that much about, because it's more coming from like the owners of these teams. And like, you see it a lot more, and you see a lot more people talking about it with like college sports, the ways at which those kids are like run into the fucking ground. So like, it's this weird tightrope that we are all walking as like sports fans and sports consumers, where like, on the one hand, we have these guys that get too big for their britches and they're a little bit out of like the sport at that point. But then we also have these guys that like are getting like shit on. Like, and you look at somebody like Kaepernick, who like took the opportunity to use his place in the sport to do something human, to like show some solidarity with fellow man, and was like shat on for it. Like, what you're talking about definitely exists. I just don't want to like, I don't want to forget about the guys out there that this is not true for.
Right, and but that's the problem. I'm not addressing the human component, and the reason why I'm not addressing the human component is because I feel like I'm not getting a chance to see it. I feel like specifically during the COVID-19 crisis and what sports are, the human component is, they're trying to whitewash it away so that you don't think of these people as, people who have families at home, who have wives and kids, so that like you don't get bummed out while you're watching sports. And
Right.
that's a whole other level of just hard to deal with.
Well, and the problem is it's fed by a certain percentage of the fan base as well. Like, these people that don't want you to think about sports as anything other than just like, like basically foosball. Like, these dudes are just on an electric board that's just shaking, and it's just, the ball is eventually going to go one way or the other. But like, there's a certain brand of person that wants you to think that way, and there's a certain brand of consumer that wants to consume that way. And that is nothing is more evident of that than what then happened to the Texans and the Chiefs, not like 10 minutes later, after their refusal to come out for the national anthem, and then coming out and locking arms with the Chiefs and getting like literally booed out of the only 13,000 fans that were there. Like there was a loud enough section for you to then hear those people then booing them. And like, that is unacceptable, because like, you're right. Like, the idea is like, we are guilty of allowing this system to turning these men and women that play these sports into objects, right? Like they have just turned them into these just objects for spectacle in front of us, and we let that happen. And now there's a clearly a growing sect of people that want that to change, both within the sport and outside of it. But it feels like it's not enough, right? And then you add to that all of the shit that's going on with like COVID and everything else in this country, and that is just depressing.
Yeah, and that's what's stuck in my craw. And
Yeah.
I needed to try to get out, because I didn't think it affected me as deeply as it did until, that booing thing, right? There's also the fact that they were arm in arm right next to each other, no space, right? And I'm not even talking about like, you should be social distancing, right? I understand the we stand together imagery of that. But then when it comes time to go flip the coin, like a minute later, everybody has a face mask on. And it's like, what's the difference between, you guys are basically just hugging each other without face masks on.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there is something to be said for the idea that what is going on in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement and race relations in this country are bigger than the stuff that's going on in terms of COVID on a personal level.
Hmm.
And so like finding the balance between those two things is definitely difficult. You add to that the idea of it being on national television, there being this outside force of the NFL having play, that we this unseen force of the NFL having play in what's going on that field, and then you have the audience that is there that's also adding to it, and it's daunting, man. Like the whole thing becomes daunting. But I I am not sure if I don't know if what happened this weekend with the Texans and the Chiefs is something that w- will continue to happen. And I mean that in all aspects, because I think at this point, there's been a loud enough contingency of people who have been like ashamed of the way that that audience reacted, that I don't know if you're necessarily going to see that type of reaction going forward if anything happens. But also, I do think the NFL really kind of got hit real hard this week, and they need to really think about how they handle this, like this opening 10 minutes of the fucking game going forward. I am curious to see how things change at this point because of what happened last week.
So I think the big thing is that this was the first one. So they did all the pomp and circumstance because it was the first game.
Yeah.
Generally, once we get to Sunday and there's 4 games at 1 o'clock and there's 4 games at 4 o'clock and then an 8 o'clock game, right? Like those games are not going to be given the opportunity to show that same pomp and circumstance. Like it's going to be about that. It's going to happen, but it's not going to be televised.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's going to be a big change, is because out of sight, out of mind. And hopefully we don't have announcers who in the first quarter of the game, while it's still scoreless and the game is just starting, are talking about, before the game we got to see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They came out and they stood for the national anthem, while their opponents, the New Orleans Saints, decided to stay in the locker room. Like that
Yeah.
shouldn't be a discussion anymore. It shouldn't have been a discussion last night, but like we hopefully they learn from that like, oh, this isn't really a thing that's necessary to talk about.
Keeping score on the wrong game, guys. Like that's it yeah. It going forward, like I really do have hope that things are going to kind of start changing, because the NFL has shown that they're at least willing to start trying something. So as disappointing as it is that they didn't get it right away, that's also not surprising to me. They are not the people that I expected to nail it, like come back from all of this and be like, oh, the NFL really picked up the ball and like ran with it, to continue the metaphor. But like, no, I didn't expect that. And so like it is disappointing, but also at the same time not surprising to me.
Yeah, I think where it hits me, and then we will move on to something else, because I don't know. I like sports, are something I enjoy. I played them all of my life, and I was excited for the NFL to come back, even though there were those little gremlins in my mind being like, should you be excited about this? And it's like, well, yeah, I know, I know, but I'm still excited. And then for the first like big one on display to just miss the mark so greatly, it it sucked. Yes. Sorry. So I mean, they're still gonna be happening. I'm gonna drop in from time to time, but I'm not as excited as I was for football. That like this time last year, I was more excited than I am right now. I mean, Tom Brady's gonna be a Buccaneer. What the hell's that gonna be like? He's been a Patriot literally our entire lives.
Yeah.
What's that gonna be like? What are the Patriots going to be like without Tom Brady? It's all up in the air, and it's crazy.
It'll be very interesting to see if he can keep up the same level of celebrity with the Buccaneers that he had with the Pats, especially considering everything that's going on with the NFL right now.
Yes.
So that'll be something to watch for sure.
But it won't be as much fun for me to watch, because there are bigger things going on than whether or not Tom Brady is still considered a celebrity.
Yeah.
All right. So that now that we've had that fun conversation, anything you'd like to bring to the table? Did you do anything cool over the last couple of weeks?
I oh man, I am so lost in a sea right now of everything that's going on. I'll tell you what, like really kind of got me this week. And something that we should probably address. We don't have all the facts on everything to do with it yet, but we should start this conversation. I am very, very confused as to what the fuck is going on with the Xbox.
Oh, are you? So you haven't seen the myriad of videos where people were sent out display units and they have been measuring them against things ad nauseum?
Oh no, I've seen those. But the fact that there's now first of all, the fact that there was going to be two systems didn't surprise me, considering the last generation we did end up getting things like the Pro versus and what was the Xbox? Was it the
It
Xbox
was
Pro?
the
No, what was the
Xbox
Xbox?
S and X.
S
They've
S
just
and
added the word series, Siegen.
okay,
Oh, they've
weird
gotten rid of the
because
word
that's
one. They've
nice.
changed the word one in the
Man.
series.
Yeah, well, so that didn't surprise me too much, but the problem with that being right at launch is that the conversation has become this whole thing about specs. And basically it has become the most boring conversation in the world. What should be like super exciting with the new video game console systems coming out and what we're going to be able to see and what we're going to be able to do with these things, I cannot believe how fucking bored I am anytime somebody starts talking about these new consoles. And then to add to that, Xbox went and added a third version apparently today, announced that there's going to be a third type that's going to be out.
What? That's
Yeah, there's going to
news to
be
me.
this
Please
is
elaborate.
that might just be rumor. Let me see if I can pull the information up on it while I talk about it. But essentially, like it's going to be another all digital version that's going to have a terabyte available in it. Which honestly, and it's not going to be available at launch. It's going to be something that comes out like later on. But the idea that like the big boy has a disk drive and a terabyte. The little boy has just like 512 gigabytes or something random thing like
Yep.
that, right? Um, but apparently they announced that there will eventually be a terabyte version of the S, and I don't know if they're going to just continue to call that the S or if they're going to call it something stupid like the V series or some nonsense. I don't know. I'm trying to.
Is that because V is between S and X?
Yeah,
As long as
that's
they
the
don't
reason
call
why
it
I
the
just pulled
E
that out of my
series, we'll
butt.
be fine. So I imagine it'll still be called the S because I don't think that the hard drive is what's going to drive the difference between these. I feel like it is the
Code
teraflops.
Codename Project Edinburgh is rumored to be less powerful than the Series X, but more powerful than the Series S. So yeah, and that is going to be a
You are absolutely certain this is not the Onion or Babylon Bee or like any of these other myriad satire sites that
let's see. It
exist.
is Games Radar.
Okay, so Games Radar is for real.
Games
A
Radar
lot
is
of
for real. They're not they're uh so this was found it's one of those things where it was found because it was on a man, it's one of those things where it's like a European GameStop put out like an ad for it or something. No, you know what it is Xbox put out an image apparently a while ago that had three different sizes in it, two black boxes, one that was a little bit smaller than the other, and then the white box. And now they've only announced the Series S and the Series X, which is the big box and the S box. And so there's clearly something between the two of them that Xbox has apparently put out about there, but like didn't release any information about it. So it's under the code name Edinburgh is what's on the slide that fucking Games Radar found. So like yeah, so that's that, right? Then added to all of this already kind of nonsense that you and I are talking about, they've also introduced this entire concept of the payment plan. And like I appreciate the idea that it is a consumer first plan. The idea that you can pay what is it, $25 a month to basically like lease your Xbox from them, like rent to own from Microsoft for this thing. It's just that in addition to that, you need to also be playing for like their top tier game pass. So actually like the S ends up working out to like $599 instead of $399, because if you add up the fact that you also have to pay for the ultimate pass that whole time. But like part of me is like, well, if you own the S, you're going to be paying for something anyway, right? Because there's no disk drive. So you need to be getting something digital coming to you, unless you're literally just like buying games digitally on their own, which is possible. But I as somebody that has had PlayStation Plus in his life every year since it came out, like I can't imagine going without some type of past program with either of these systems. But still, that like that if you roll that into the price of that box, like that's what you're going to end up paying. And then for like the big boy, it ends up being like 650 when all is said and done. I think you only end up paying like an extra 19 on top of everything or something. It's weird, like the way that they were able to do the math on that. But you add all of this up and it's like you've got all of this news about what the different things can do, and everybody's talking about the specs between the differences between these two, possibly three systems. Then on top of that, you have everybody talking about the payment plans and how those are going to break down in terms of finances over the years, and like how you're going to work that out. Also, those have to be coming directly from Microsoft. You can't get on a payment plan if you're buying from like Walmart or anything like that, which makes sense. But like the conversation is so geared towards the minutia of specs and finances that this is the most boring console launch story that I have been a part of my entire life. I cannot believe how like snore inducing this conversation about the Xbox is. And that is, I think, a huge failure on Xbox, on Microsoft's part, is that like they had an opportunity here being first out of the gate before PlayStation, especially with a price like $299, to be able to say that at all, $299, and then walk away. Like essentially, isn't that what PlayStation did to the Sega Saturn at one point? But like they had such an opportunity here to light the world on fire, and it feels like they hit a spark with a lot of people, and then everybody just was like scratching their heads for the rest of the week because they're trying to get through all of the nitty gritty details of what the fuck just happened, and that is so disappointing.
So the one thing that I want to address is I didn't believe that you had to be paying separately for the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I thought that that was included in the price.
Nope. Not according to all of the pricing conversations I've been looking at today. I'm looking at Polygon right now, breaking down what that price is going to be. So it's $299 that you pay $25 a year for the system, but then on top of that, you need to be paying the $24.99 a month for. No, it's $24.99 a month for the system, $34.99 a month if you get the system plus the pass.
Well, then at that point, you should just get the Xbox Series X, because that is $34.99 a month and includes the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, based on everything that I've read. Because this financing program is what got me to like look up and pay attention. As much as you're not wrong, talking about finances and video games is boring. I understand that the people who were playing video games in the 80s are now in their 30s, but we still care more about if the game is fun and fun to look at. It's not, oh, it's so affordable. Affordability is not something that we care about. Let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah, it's
But yeah,
man.
because I looked at it and I'm like, okay, so $35 a month in 2 years, I own an Xbox Series X, and then I sell it. Like that's how it looked to me. It'd be like buying a cell phone and then just paying it off, and then I own the cell phone, I can keep it, or I can move on. And if I get the Xbox Game Pass for free with it, that's 2 years that I'm getting to just play the games that are on Game Pass. Like, it looked like it was included, and gold was included with it, too. Like, it seemed like too good a deal to be true.
Game Pass is not included with the Series X, at least according to this Polygon article.
Okay, so I need to read this Polygon article because I was on the Microsoft website with any time I had a free second today, like on my breaks and on lunch, going over it and making sure that the deal that looked like it was too good to be true was actually what you were getting.
Yeah, so this was updated today, September 11th at 10:22 a.m. And the exact line that I'm looking at is under Xbox All Access. An Xbox Series S will cost 24.99 a month for 24 months and 34.99 a month for 24 months. So that means as a total, that means it comes out to 599 and 76 for the Series S and $839.76 for the Series X. Game Pass on its own costs $14.99 a month. So if you were to add that all together and just do the retail price of the console and then pay for it, you get the Series S for $658.76, which means that you're saving yourself $59. On the X, it would be $858.76, which means you're saving yourself only $19 by buying them together. So this is the breakdown for Polygon, explaining all of that. So yeah, I think maybe that thing where you were afraid it might be too good to be true might have been too good
Oh
to be
yeah, it
true.
definitely sounds like it's too good to be true. I mean, I guess I'll do the maths out, and I was looking if I had a calculator to do that. But also, I mean, if you're doing that, if you're the type of person who's doing that, would you be spending money on games? Right? Like I would just play the stuff on Game Pass because
Well,
Game Pass, the way that it's set up,
yeah.
friggin' new games drop the same day that they release to the
Yeah.
public.
Well, I was gonna say you're getting the new games anyway, and I think that is kind of the not so secret like between the lines here is that they're really trying to get people into like a Netflix style gaming like subscription, which is what Plus always kind of promised to be, or now always promised to be on the PlayStation, but I've never quite felt like it's ever really lived up to that for a lot of reasons. Um, and if Xbox can and if Microsoft can pull this off, because it is Microsoft, it's not just the Xbox, because we're talking about this also being available on your PC. That's the other thing about getting this huge pass is that it'll be available on other devices wherever you can play Game Pass. So anything but Apple products right now, um, you'll also have access to all this stuff there too, right? So like they really are trying to hook you into this service with the box, and like I get that and I see that and I understand where all of that comes from, and the more that I listen to them talk about it and I listen to people try and break this all down and have these exact kind of conversations of what about this, what about that, like I just don't it makes me not excited for the Xbox in a way that when they dropped the 299 number for the S series, I for the first time in like a decade went, "Oh my God, I'm going to own an Xbox." Like that was the thought in my head, was immediately like, well, I guess I'm getting an Xbox now, which if you had told me a month ago that thought was a possibility in my head, I would have laughed at you. But like here I am, like admitting that like I still kind of want it, but man, I really don't give a shit about any of this other stuff that they're now talking about, and it's really turning me off, like the ways in which they're not talking about any of the fun stuff with this.
Yeah, it seems to be more of a Stadia killer than anything else. In fact, like one of the articles I
You
read
mean
today
kicking a dead horse?
compared it to Stadia, and it's just like, well, that's weird because Stadia is a non-starter. As a founder on Stadia, like I don't use Stadia. I play Thumper every once in a while. What I do with Stadia, here's the pro tip. Google's gonna come and get me segment of the series. On the 30th of a month, if I right now I'm currently not subscribed to Stadia. I'm not paying for Stadia right now. On the 30th of September, I will subscribe to Stadia, and that will allow me to download all of the games that were released for Stadia Pro in September and all of the games that will release in October. And then in October, like around the 16th, I will cancel my renewal in October. And then come November, on the 30th, I will re-up again, get my November games, get my December games, and then cancel it. And now granted, that means that only 6 months out of the year, I get to use my Stadia account, but that's how much I'm using it anyway.
Yeah, it's more. I think calling it a Stadia killer is definitely not the right term for it. But I think maybe like proving that the concept of Stadia is viable if you've got the infrastructure, like that I can totally get behind. Like essentially, like we said when we talked about Stadia when it first got announced, up until you getting your hands on it, Google has an idea here that's worth having. It's just they're not going to be the ones to run with it, and Google's usually okay with that as long as they get to be the first ones in the door, because God knows what kind of patents they have out there that they've got on things like streaming gaming that they developed that Microsoft doesn't even have to like use it in perpetuity, but to get a look at it, they pay Google a little bit of money behind. Like, we never hear about it because it's so far deep down behind the scenes. So like Google makes a little bit of money because somebody looks at code for a month. You know what I mean? And like that's how Google makes its fucking billions, is not by being like in your face all the time with like the Stadia is the next big gaming console, but instead like Stadia has some bits and pieces that people are interested in. Right? And we always knew that was how they were going to make money off of Stadia. So like thinking about it that way is really interesting. But just to throw another kink in all of this too, I also forgot that like in all of the financing stuff, that's not new for Xbox. They've actually had that a bit available for the Xbox One as well. And there's a lot of conversation right now about what that means for anybody that wants to upgrade. Like, are you stuck in a plan and stuff like that? And the word right now is that I think it's actually here in this Polygon article that they'll let you buy into, as long as you've paid off 75% of the system, which I guess is like
18 months
market price for the thing. Like, as long as you hit that, you're good to buy out of, or you're good to leave your contract behind, and they'll roll you into a new one. Which is like, again, adding just a whole other layer to this of just like, at what point are we starting to talk about things like leases and loans, and like if this is going to be the way that the market goes going forward, like what kind of regulations exist on these kinds of plans and stuff like that? Because as somebody that has had and still continues to have huge financial like issues, and I don't mean that as in like I'm homeless, right? I mean that in terms of like, I cannot fucking comprehend some of the shit that's out there in terms of things like school loans and credit card industries and credit numbers and stuff like that. Like, there are bits and pieces of it that are just so, they're unfathomable to me, and I don't care to ever learn them. Am I going to have to become educated on that stuff to play video games now? And if I'm not educating myself, am I being taken advantage of? Is there somebody in place to make sure that I'm not getting taken advantage of here? Like, that, it becomes like scary. And the thing about gaming systems is that traditionally the kinds of people that buy into gaming systems and really invest and become the people that really kind of like hold the market up are kinds of people that maybe make the bad decision of, instead of spending $100 on groceries this week, they spend $60 on a video game and $40 on groceries this week. Like, that is kind of the market for gaming. And so like introducing this whole financial aspect and bogging people down in the minutia of things like specs and saying, well, you're not going to want a PlayStation because it only has like this kind of fucking drive in it, that solid state RAM is only available in the Xbox S. And it's like, that kind of stuff, it basically, it feels like a smoke screen for like some shady shit. And I'm not saying that it even is. I'm just saying that, like, as somebody that doesn't understand half of the conversation and in fact falls asleep during it, they're really kind of putting me in this place of just like, I don't think I want to get involved in that.
Yeah. So where it comes from for me, first of all, I said that Google was going to come and get me. Google doesn't care that I do that. As I listen to you talk about Google wanting to have the technology and be the gatekeepers of their technology, they don't care that I'm paying them to get 2 months worth of games. They
live off of that, because the more people you tell, the more likely that guy that was never going to do it is now going to do it for at least 6 months a year.
Right. And that's $60 in their pocket that they weren't getting before. And $60 adds up, as evidenced by this financing plan. Going a step further than that, like, welcome to the fucking problem with the 9th generation. And the fact that at this point, really what you should be doing is buying a PC. The only thing that the Sony PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, and the Xbox doesn't even fucking have this, is exclusives, right? And that's where PlayStation is going to live and die, is on things like Spider-Man Miles Morales. And I can't think of another one, but I know that they have another one that everybody is talking about as this is a PlayStation exclusive. You're not going to get to play it on PC. You're not going to get to play it on Xbox. And as we get to the point where the box itself is no longer as impressive as something that you could do on your own for the same amount of money, and that's really the big thing, right? You build a PC, and when it comes time for a new PlayStation, the cost of that PlayStation, if you just get a higher graphics card, mostly everything else in that computer is gonna still work. Am I crazy for thinking that, or?
Yeah, but you have to remember that like what the consoles are bringing to the table is convenience, right? The idea that like you could have been doing this on a PC has been the truth for years, for decades, right? And there's a certain subset of people that will teach themselves like to do that sort of stuff, or get really into that hobby, job, whatever it becomes for them, because they realize that I should just be doing this, right? But there is a convenience factor, and as you mentioned, the exclusives factor. And so like those two things together are really what sell consoles. And so to put that in vaguer terms, the simplicity of it, right? And so that's exactly what my issue is with all of this Xbox stuff, is they are ignoring the one big thing that they've really got over PC, and that is the simplicity of it. And now you've got me wondering, are they actually ignoring it, or are they purposely making this so complicated that you do just build yourself a PC? Because really, at the end of the day, you building your own PC and then just buying into their all access pass is really what they want, because that means that they've got you as a customer for life, not just the next 5 years until this console dies, right? So, but taking the conspiracy out of the picture, like Xbox has really kind of dropped the ball here, because they had the ability to just give a couple of price numbers, say these are the specs, and not get into like a whole conversation about why these specs are going to change depending on what version you have. They didn't have to introduce this ghost of an idea of a third system. Why that ever got out there, I don't know. And maybe that'll turn out to be bunk, but if that's the case, they should get out there quick and say that. But like, all of this stuff has just complicated what should be a simple conversation. The selling point should be simplicity. And so far, PlayStation's kind of like taken that, because they came out, they gave a couple of videos about what their video games were going to be, they showed you what the console was going to look like, and then they walked away. And then they'll come in and they'll drop a price. And I don't know if they're going to push too much of this spec conversation, because they'll release the specs obviously, but they'll just let everybody else just run with it and walk away again. And so like they're gonna win just by being the guys that just give you what you want.
Yeah, they're the ones who truly understand the gamers of the 80s just want to be laissez-faire. They just want to be trusted to like know that they can come home, unlock the door, and make some mac and fucking cheese while mommy and daddy are still at work until 6. That is what the modern gamer wants. I want to be able to set it and forget it. And the bigger thing is that we know that the PS5 is going to have 2 versions at the beginning. The only difference is one has a disc drive, one does not have a disc drive. It is not this Xbox, Microsoft looking at the situation saying, we got our asses handed to us by the PlayStation 4. We were the industry fucking leaders with the Xbox 360, and no one will disagree with that, right? The Xbox 360 was the biggest console in the world, next to the Wii. But like it was like the Xbox 360,
and the Wii and the Xbox 360 weren't even playing the same game,
right?
Yeah.
But they were appealing to the same audience, because the type of people who were playing the Wii, once they wanted like a meatier experience, the fact that an Xbox 360 was $50 to $100 more than a Wii, that was appealing. And all you need to do is look at the fact that an Xbox 360 controller also runs on AA batteries. I know that might sound absurd, but if you're someone who was brought into video games and indoctrinated in video games with the Wii and its Wiimote that requires 2 AA batteries to function, going to a next system and seeing, oh, this controller is also wireless, and all that's required from me, all I need to do is put 2 batteries into that. I've been doing that my whole life with remote controls for my television. This is just a further extension of skills that I already possess as a human being.
Yeah, man. Simplicity through and through, all the way down. Yeah.
So what they're trying to do to distance themselves and to make themselves better than PlayStation is to offer that really complicated setup to those people who are like, the reason why it appeals to you is because I'm a little bit tired of all the complicated stuff of the PlayStation 4. I'd like it if I just got my games for one monthly subscription cost and a cheaper system to boot.
This was a choice. I enjoy that you're going with it.
Yeah, I went with it. You know what the problem is? I listened to our American Pie episode, and at the end of it, I did Atticus Finch, discussing like whether or not it's a good film, and I liked the character. I liked Southern lawyer Devin Decker. He has to have a better name, and I will find a better name for him.
But and it's actually a beautiful choice, and here's why: because it's not the fact that a video game console shouldn't be complicated. Like, I want my console to be decked out. I want it to have top of the line graphics cards and hard drives and RAM and all of this shit. I want that to be in it, and then I want the company to tell me like, don't worry, this has all that in it. And I just want to trust them. And it really, really, really complicates that easy math when you try and explain to me like, no, we promise this is top of the line, and here's why, A, B, and C, and here's A1, and here's B2, and here's, and like, no, I got you. Just tell me that like it's going to be the best thing that you can put out there, and then some point I'll watch a video online where somebody puts an Xbox S series next to a fucking PS5, and they'll say, well, I'm playing the same game on both, and this is going on here and that's going on there. And then I'll say to myself, yeah, I got the best system. Or I'll be kicking myself because I'll realize I didn't. I don't need this conversation. I really don't. And I don't know anybody that really does. Like, I know there are people out there that are loving this and like are feeding off of it, but those are the same people that were going to have this conversation anyway, maybe once the systems came out and not now. But like the techies that are really getting into this like meaty shit that they're releasing, they're not the ones that are on the fence about buying a system. They know what system they're going to buy. The same people that enjoy this kind of conversation have already made up their minds about why their system's going to be the one that they get, right? Like, this is, I don't know whose mind this is changing. I don't know anybody that's sitting down and reading the fucking like CNET article on like the Xbox differences and like really making like the hard decision on what system they're going to buy.
Right. And the fact of the matter is there isn't anybody. What we're witnessing is Xbox getting caught with their pants down and trying to make sure that they can control the news cycle through the day that they originally wanted to announce this system.
Yeah.
And that is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This system was going to be announced on September 15th. The Xbox Series S leaked on Sunday night, and the world collectively lost its shit about it. And Microsoft decided, okay, we're not ready to go with this, but we can't give up all of this free publicity and attention on our system at this time just because we set up an arbitrary date to announce it of the 15th. And the reason why I say the 15th is that it is fucking absurd that it is 2 weeks before I can pre-order it. Live and die by the window between when I'm told the thing exists and when I can give you money for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time, like, for my heels to cool on this whole thing.
Right. So the fact of the matter is that's why the tail end of this week is this discussion about money, right? So you're thinking about the money and maybe your heels have cooled. So then next week, when we get to the 15th, that is when Microsoft is going to have the sizzle reel to sell you on this steak. Mm-hmm. The unfortunate thing is, because of the nature of our world right now, the steak was put before you without any of the sizzle. And nobody wants a raw fucking piece of ribeye.
Yeah, man. It's a very 2020 turn of events for this whole freaking console thing, in a way that like nobody could have seen it coming, because that's been the case with everything this year. It's I just can't believe that this is the kind of conversation that Xbox really wants to be having right now, especially because it's not a conversation. It's really just them just shouting out to the world what's going on. There isn't a PS5 to compare it to right now. So like there isn't like a back and forth of like, oh well, they said this, well they said that. Well, you're not getting that. So it's also not interesting to me, because at this point I've shut myself down because I don't care about these numbers on the specs. I've shut myself down because I don't care about all of this stuff when it comes to the financing stuff. All I want to know now is, what is PlayStation going to say? So they're slowly kind of losing that attention that they gained to PlayStation, because that's kind of what everybody's starting to feel. So like it's really starting to bite them in the butt a little bit, and it's going to continue to until PlayStation says something and or Microsoft does something to draw attention back to them.
Right. And that's the unfortunate truth of the situation. And I don't know, earlier today I was all about getting an Xbox Series X because of that financing plan. But now, after this discussion, I'm going to need to figure it out and if it's worth it.
Well, and that's the joy of all of this, is I could be totally wrong, because the conversation is so convoluted that like I might just have a couple of the different facts wrong, or I might be reading into something the wrong way. So like that's also like a huge part of this, is that by its very nature, it's a complex amount of information, and I think this feeds into your theory that they weren't ready to like feed it out yet. Like there's not like a handy dandy chart, or maybe there is, at least but I haven't seen it yet, that just says like, here is the exact situation, here are the numbers, here's everything broken down in a nice, easy consume fashion. I want this to be simpler, plain and simple.
Yeah, they don't, but they also don't want it to be simple. They just want you to look at, oh, $35 a month, I can swing that to get the newest system. And that's what they're hoping will carry them through, is that if you look at the PS5, and let's say it's $600 for a PS5, yeah. Though at this point, because Sony has all of this time to like gird themselves against that,
yeah,
I would be very surprised if that were the case.
Rip out the hard drives. We're not even giving them that.
Yeah,
anything we can do to get it down to $400. Just $400.
We'll include Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
Everyone talked about Miles Morales as this add-on for the Spider-Man game. You buy a PS5, you get a PS5 coded, like meant to be played on this system copy of Spider-Man for free with it. That right there would push 1,000 systems.
It's just part of the firmware.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, they've used it as the test display for so long. And that would be enough for some people to know that, like, day one, I get a game that I know has this length. And I get to compare my situation on the PS4 to my situation on the PS5. It's a tech demo, but it's not a tech demo because it's a game that people who bought it and played it over these last 2 years already have opinions on. Mm-hmm. And they've already given it away for free before. So it's not like, and it's an in-house game, right? It's a Sony game.
Yeah.
So they could totally do that. And then they get your $40 because you buy the Miles Morales game. And then they're like, oh, you remember how good fucking Spider-Man was? Now you get to be Miles Morales. And then years down the line, Spider-Man 2 comes out. And, you know, if you haven't gotten it, when you still buy a PS5, Spider-Man PS5 is included with that purchase.
Right.
So if you're one of these people who slept on Spider-Man this whole time, let's be honest, $600 for the PS5 and it comes with Spider-Man, here, take my money. Mm-hmm. Here, take my money. As somebody who beat Spider-Man again this year, like, because it's such a good game.
I don't know if they could get away. Look, I love this fantasy world in which a demo disc exists with PlayStations again. Like I had more fun playing fucking one round of SS Triggy and fucking Parappa the Rappa on my demo disc than I ever did in some of the games I played on the original PlayStation. But I will say that, like, I don't think that they can say $600 at this point because of everything that's come out about the Xbox. And this is somebody that's like starting to turn cold on the Xbox stuff in just a few days with that news. If PlayStation comes out and says anything higher than 499, like
Then they've already lost. I
they've
get that.
lost
Yeah.
they've lost me. Like they've lost a lot of people that way. But you're not wrong that this gives them time to figure something out. Like, like if they can come up with their own fucking finance plan or something, like, yeah, it's $500, but if you pay us $25 a month, we'll knock $60 off the price. You know what I mean? Like they've got time now to counter all of this. And so like I'm very, very curious to see what they say.
Yeah. Jeez. You know what I'd like to talk about while we're talking about video games? There's two things
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about. Thing one, because it's less of a deal for me, is the Age of Calamity Hyrule Warriors game,
Yeah,
the
man. All
prequel
right.
to Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
Because I slept on Hyrule Warriors, and now it's impossible to find, which is disappointing to me because I don't want to jump in sight unseen to Age of Calamity. But oh my god, does Age of Calamity appeal to me because I get to play as all these characters that I met in Breath of the Wild, who were basically cutscene and nothing more.
Yeah, man. This is actually beautiful because I can finally talk about my ongoing experiences with Hyrule Warriors that have been going on for the last couple of months, and they have been more towards the awesome. Definitely a couple of lukewarm things that are with that game, and anybody that loves that game will admit to you that there's a couple of issues with it. As an example of just something very fucking silly about that game, it was a Wii U game, and so it had a multiplayer mode, and the way that that worked is that one person was on screen, one person was on the Wii U gamepad. On this version of it, on the Switch version of it, it doesn't work that way. It is split screen, and it is horizontal split screen, so top bottom, and it is crunched, and the UI is not meant for it, and it is clear. It is unclear like what is going on half the time. So there's a lot of nonsense that you got to deal with if you're going to play this game multiplayer. That being said, I can play it by myself. It is a blast by myself. Throw on some fun music, but holy crap, is it fun to play with somebody? I've actually been playing through it with Hannah. So like the two, like that is how we've gotten through the game. We've each gone back on our own and done some smaller stuff like redoing levels, because that's a big part of the Dynasty Warriors gaming cycle.
Yeah.
Like, is that you go back and you replay stuff so that you can get more material so that you can up like your weapons and all that sort of stuff. And so like we've done that on our own, but anything that has been progress in the game, we have made a point to be playing together. There is a ton of like there's a ton of stuff that is not made clear to you up front with that game, in terms of like there's 6 different modes to it. So we are playing the story mode together, got to the end of it a couple of weeks ago and thought like that was awesome. Like we got 2 months out of this game, realized we'd only played like an eighth of that game, because in addition to the story mode, there is like adventure mode, which has like 8 maps of its own. There is all of this stuff about raising a fairy. So like there's this fairy farm thing that you can go into. There is this whole idea of like going into the challenge mode and doing different things. Like there is so much going on in that game, which is both a boon to it and also a nightmare, because they don't explain to you that like, hey, if you really are struggling in the story mode, you should go play adventure mode for a bit, because you're going to get a fuck ton of material, you're going to unlock some new characters, you're going to unlock some new weapons, and that is going to help you when you come back into story mode. So like take a break and go to that. And they don't say that. And I don't know if that's like, this is really kind of my first Dynasty Warrior games too, so I don't know if that's just inherent to that, like to that franchise, that like people just know that, or like the fact that they're unclear is inherent to that franchise. I don't know. So there's a lot going on there that is just really kind of confusing. As I said, the multiplayer is like fucking wacky. Also, like the way that you add second player is ridiculous. You don't just click 2 player and then like you're 2 players the whole time. Every time you go into a battle, you need to make sure that you remember to add the second player. And it's very easy to not think about that, because you pick your hero, you start putting your weapon together, you get all of this, you go through like 20 different menus, and then you're like, all right, I'm ready to play. Click ready to play. Fuck, I forgot to add player 2. And so you have to like go back and start that whole cycle all over again. And yeah, there's so that's pretty crazy. I like, that being said though, it is a fucking blast. Like the amount of stuff that you get if you buy Hyrule Warriors now is insane, because in addition to Hyrule Warriors, you also get all of the silly fucking DLC they put out. So you get a bunch of Wind Waker shit, you get a whole bunch of silly characters like fucking like Tingle is in it, and there's and Linkle. There's an entire DLC pack that was Linkle, and it is actually like legitimately fun to play Linkle's story because it's like this like weird side quest to the original one. So you see stuff that you saw with the original guys, but like Linkle always shows up either late or like fights a different enemy or something like that. And so that's just ridiculous and fun. The bosses are just nuts. It is a fucking experience that I will never forget. Like it is a Zelda game that filled in a lot of holes for me. Like a lot of people take issue with the ways in which it plays with the timeline, but honestly, it tells a more thorough like timeline story than any fucking nonsense Nintendo has put out about like the story of Zelda over the last 10 years, 15 years, what like it's just it is a it is a it is a piece of Nintendo history now that people adore and love, and it is deservedly so. So when they announced that they were doing um a new game, first of all, the ways in which they announced it, and this was within the 15 minutes of the announcement, like Nintendo keeping it simple, like got all the news out there on time. But fuck me, first they were like, oh, it's more Zelda Hyrule Warriors. And so I thought, oh, DLC. And they were like, yeah, it's Breath of the Wild based. And I was like, sweet, Breath of the Wild DLC. That'll be super fun. And they were like, it's $60. And I was like, whoa, $60. It didn't click in my head that what they meant was like it's gonna be its own game. I was like, that seems insane, unless like the idea is that it's $60 plus everything. And then they were like, no, no, no. This is its own game. It's a whole new game. And on top of that, it's also going to be a prequel to Breath of the Wild. And I was just like, done. I'm sold. I'm fucking sold. I'm so excited for this game.
Cool. And I'm mad at you. I shake my fist at you, Sujin, because the inability to find this game in a physical format, and
Yeah.
Switch is the only system that I buy physical for anymore,
Yeah.
led me down a different path, and one that I will probably be starting this weekend. Maybe there's some caveats, and I'd love to discuss them once I finish. I was able to find Fire Emblem Warriors, which is the same setup as Hyrule Warriors, but in the Fire Emblem universe. And I
Nice.
love me some Lucia. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong; she's one of my Smash Ultimate mains.
Nice.
So I love Lucia, and Marth and Roy, like our first experiences with it. There are people in the world that I enjoy a Fire Emblem, even if it's one of those games that I've literally never touched before. But I was able to pick that game up for $18. So
Yeah.
my experience with seeing if I like the world of a Dynasty Warriors style game, because I've
Yeah.
never actually played outside of a demo, is going to be with the Fire Emblem people. But now if I enjoy that, Siegen, I'm going to have to hunt down a copy of Hyrule Warriors for the Switch.
I mean, we got it digital. And one of the big reasons we got it digital is because we also have a Switch Lite in the house, and it is one of those games that's very, very easy to jump in and out of. Like you can do a story mode thing, and you can expect to spend like 30 to 40 minutes in like a story mode level, or you can do a challenge mode thing or an adventure mode thing, and it can only be 10 minutes. So like it's very, very it travels well, right? And so like we wanted the ability to move it around, and at the time not knowing whether or not the light was going to have because we got it long before we got the Switch Lite, but we knew it was coming, so we didn't know what the Switch Lite was going to be capable of. So we were just like, let's just buy it digital. We just know that we can just download it to that when we want to and take it with us, and we can go. So like that kind of led that, and so we only got a digital copy of it, and I am not nearly as attached to the idea of physical when it comes to like new stuff like the Switch. If we were going back and buying like old system stuff, I would definitely want physical copies of it. I notoriously will pick up like physical copies of like PS3 games now, no matter how fucking dumb they are. Um, but like that is just that if that is a preference for you, like it'll be worth it. I think that as much as it'll be a shame that you won't be able to like play it immediately, it's also kind of a game that like we found it in our own time, and I'm so happy that we did, because we could have played it on the Wii U when it first came out. We just didn't. Like at the time, it was just not one of the ones that popped up in our need to play radar, right? And I think that try Fire Emblem, see how you feel about it. Know that like Hyrule Warriors hits kind of a kind of special place in my heart because of the fact that it is Zelda, like the
Well, I
stuff
mean,
that you run
obviously, I
into.
imagine that that's going to happen for me too, as someone
Right.
who's already this year beaten Link to the Past 100 times, and
It's
I'm
made
like
me
going lower with it. But
it's
continue.
made me want to go play Skyward Sword.
Yeah,
Like that is what this thing has done. It has found ways to make me interested in Zelda lore that I didn't really care about before, like in really interesting ways. But like it it's waiting for you, and it's going to be just as good as when you find it. And like if buying it physical is important to you, like go on that mission in life because like it'll totally be worth it.
cool. But I am going to try Fire Emblem Warriors, and if I absolutely hate the combat, $20 for that seems like a very fine cost of
Mhm.
admission to lose.
Yeah, man. And
Whereas
maybe we can figure out some way that we can get you my copy of Dynasty of Hyrule Warriors. Like we'll find some backdoor way.
yeah,
Yeah, and
we'll figure it out. We're good like that. But yeah, and the other thing that I want to talk about, while we're talking about physical, is the Super Mario 3D All Stars collection,
Mhm.
which seems like the kind of perfect place to end this very roller coaster episode.
Yeah, because this is going to be a roller coaster of a conversation, I think. But yeah, man. Like first impressions, I am very excited.
I am very excited.
I am very excited. It's three games that I have actually like played and am super excited to be able to play again. Also, I mean, this is really far out, but I'm also very excited about 3D World finally coming to the Switch. But
God,
we'll
I'm
you know when that
so
comes out, right? But yeah, the idea of 3D All Stars, I am kind of surprised that they don't include Galaxy 2. Should I not be?
no, you and everybody else is surprised that Galaxy 2 isn't included because Galaxy 2 is the better Galaxy.
Yeah, one is a very good proof of concept, but in true video game fashion, the sequel is really the refining of the thing that is much better. Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
but I also feel like Galaxy 2 took me so long to finally bite the bullet and play. I didn't
Hmm.
play Super Mario Galaxy 2 until the Wii U was released. Like that's how long it took me to actually say, okay, I'm going to try this game because the discussion around it was always so like hit or miss. I heard that it was difficult, and I don't know why that dissuaded me, Devin Decker,
No, I don't know either. To
from
be
playing the
honest, I
game.
feel like that would have been the thing that would have made you run to it.
Right,
But
and certainly now it would. And I think that was the case was, all right, I've platinumed Demon's Souls and Dark Souls. I can probably play Super Mario Galaxy 2.
yeah, for sure.
If it was too difficult for people. But I think where it hit me hearing that it was difficult was I don't think of Super Mario games as difficult. I think of them as
Yeah.
accessible. Like there's always going to be a moment that might be hard, but you know, everything that you've done leading up to that point is going to give you the chance to learn how to survive and thrive in the environment. They're very additive experiences, the Super Mario
Yeah.
games.
Super Mario games always give you the tools you need to succeed. It's just entirely up to you to use those tools properly and be smart enough to figure out when to do what. And Super Mario games are always built in a way where there is always more difficult shit available to you, but not necessarily like required of you, is the other part of that.
Yeah, beginning with Super Mario World, definitely that became the case. I guess Super Mario 3 kind of has it because there are the like branching paths on the world map where you could do like four.
And the whistle.
Yeah, well, but not the whistle because the whistle is the warp zone. That's been there from the beginning.
But that's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
like the warp zone has always been there for people that like I don't know if if I have it in me to play 3 hours of this game, but it sure have it in me to play 40 minutes of this game. So like I'm gonna just use a skip and go to the end.
Yeah.
Like that is part of
That's
this
a very
conversation.
yeah. I hadn't even considered that section of it. I think of Super Mario World and Star Road,
Star Road.
and then a jump further than that, the Special World.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember watching a GamePro TV, which now come to find out that those were just paid promotional advertisements. That was a commercial I watched at 5:30 on a Saturday morning. which is why I was on at 5:30 on a Saturday morning, where I found out about the special world, and then that became my Saturday, was finding and defeating the special world. That's a happy 7-year-old Devin memory. I love that 7-year-old Devin memory. I need to stop saying 7-year-old Devin memory. But I think about that situation, and then going forward from there, that definitely became the norm. Because you look at like Yoshi's Island, Super Mario World 2, which has the 2 extras if you're willing to get 100% in every level leading up to it. So it is about choice. And it felt like the discussion surrounding Super Mario Galaxy 2 was that choice was taken away from you, that no matter what, you had to do the hard with the easy.
Yeah.
And that felt like a betrayal of what the game was. And that's one of the reasons why I avoided it. But then when I finally played it, I'm like, what a fucking idiot I was. To that was a big moment in me, because it was one of the only times that I let the opinions of a popular, the crowd and popular opinion sway me from doing something that I wanted to do. So never again, Super Mario Galaxy 2, will a game of your caliber be ignored because people say it's too hard. I'm not going to do that. That's never going to happen again. And also, just if you're interested, give it a shot. And if you don't like it, you don't like it, and you move on. Video games don't have to be life. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is an important game, and it's weird that it was omitted. But with the whole talk that they're going to be delisted in March, on March 31st, 2021, said it right that time, I imagine that maybe that's coming down the line later. They want to give it a better treatment?
Let's talk about delisting for a second, because what's not clear to me, and maybe you can clarify this for me, is that they're saying that the Super Mario All-Star, or the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection, is not going to be available after that date. But what that says to me is they're going to break it up at that point, and what was a $60 experience is now maybe going to be closer to a $90 to $120 experience, depending on what the price is on each of those games available digitally, right? If they're going to give you the option to buy them separately after that, and I feel like if they don't do that, that's ridiculous. But in that scenario, assuming that that's the way that they go about it, it then makes total sense for them to say things like, also, we're going to release other games in this time period of that's when the Wind Waker remake will be coming out. That's when Super Mario Galaxy 2 will be available. That's when, if they use the end of the All-Stars lifespan as the ability to then open up their market to a bunch of other older games, I feel like that would be both intelligent and, as a fan, fucking awesome. That being said, as I mentioned, I'm not clear if that's exactly what's going to happen with that. Because if it's just that those games are going to poof into the ether and they're never going to touch them again, then as a fan, I'm very worried that means I'll never see things like Galaxy 2. I'll never see things like Wind Waker. Skyward Sword. I would love to, as I said, I'm actually kind of very interested in that game, but not if I have to go pull out a Wii to play it.
And a Wii Motion Plus, which I never got. I never got one of those. So you, me, and the rest of the internet currently have our hands up and question marks surrounding our heads because no one can figure it out. But I, being Devin Decker, and not giving a damn if I'm right or wrong on this one, believe that the reason behind it is pretty simple. It's the same reason why we don't have a virtual console on the Switch, even though it made bank for them on the Nintendo Wii and on the Wii U. It's because nostalgia trumps everything else. Nostalgia will always win out. It's actually, that's really part of Nintendo's marketing strategy, is that nostalgia sells. But the downside of that nostalgia is if people have the option to buy some game that they know they enjoy rather than some new game that's untested, they're going to buy the thing that they enjoy. So the thing that they enjoy, $10, the new game, $60, we're seeing a lot less profit from them buying the nostalgia games.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and this is foolish to think this way, and I know that it's like a fallacy to think this way, but there is also something to be said about like they don't have to put the development cycle into like a re-release of a game that they do for producing a new one, though, right? Like, so I feel like I feel like there's a balance to be made there, right? Like, yeah, we don't have to pay as much to make this game, so we're not making as much on it, but the profit margin still makes sense, right? And like I said, it's foolish to think that way because obviously, like if they do any type of cleanup work, if they go back and rebuild anything, like that is not necessarily the case. But I will say that to that, I will point to the fact that the 3D World All Star stuff, it doesn't look like they've done much to them.
I agree. And that's a whole other situation with this. But sticking
Hmm.
strictly in the realm of nostalgia versus brand new game, um,
Hmm.
nobody cares about how much it costs to make something. Nobody cares how much it costs to make something unless that thing fails.
You mean in terms of the creators?
In in terms of anything in this world, we only care about profit. We don't care about cost.
Right.
The success of something is only based on how much profit it makes, how much money it earns the people who created it. That
Yeah.
is, I mean, that's something that we discuss with movies. With this movie only made $1.5 million on a $5 million budget, it's a fucking bomb. And that is like, right, because money was lost there. But if that same, $5 million budget movie had made $20 million, they'd want to make movies in that franchise until they hit one of those walls where it bombs, right?
Yeah.
So all we care about is the success of something. So we never really consider the fact that, like you said, putting up a ROM of a game that we created 20, 30 years ago, that's pure profit. That's pure profit for us, right? Super Mario Brothers for $10, pure profit for Nintendo. Every time that they put that up there, that's pure profit for Nintendo. In fact, it's sort of like more than pure profit because it's been proven that the ROM of Super Mario Brothers that was on the NES Classic was just a ROM they downloaded off the internet. It wasn't even one that they had in house
Wasn't one of
or built in
theirs,
house.
right?
Like
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, we went to Romania. Actually, they went to emulate Emu Paradise, which is why Emu Paradise was then shut down because that's when Nintendo realized, oh, it's real easy to get our stuff online, huh? Now that we've done it, let's shut this down.
Hey, yeah, it's like going in and buying weed from somebody and then like telling the cops where the dealer lives. It's like, fuck you, man.
Yeah, it's exactly like that, I imagine. Not that I've ever lived that scenario. Not that anyone's ever lived that scenario, right? Right? Are you
I
listening? Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. Uh, but it's one of those situations where they only care about the profit margins. So definitely by creating a false sense of scarcity with the 3D All Stars collection, I mean, I'll be the person who admits that right now I have 2 copies pre-ordered. I have a copy pre-ordered from Best Buy and one from Target, and that's because I want to make sure that I have a copy of it. And, if something were to happen where it's canceled and I can't get a physical copy, or later on down the line it's difficult to get, I have no intentions of selling off one of those. I just want to have it because I know, it's not the first time that Nintendo has made an All Stars release limited. And I feel like that's what people really forgot at the beginning, that the
Yeah.
25th anniversary Wii Super Mario All Stars release was limited, and then
Yes.
Nintendo had to do a second printing of it because of the demand, right? That's
Yeah.
what they want to see with this. They want to see demand for this game and telling people that it's only available for a limited time. You only have 6 months to buy this game. That's going to make people go out and buy it. It's not going to be like one of my situations, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, right? The remaster of that just came out. It's $40. I'm interested, and by all accounts, I should buy it. But I'm sitting here wondering, at some point, I can probably get this for $20, and I'd
Mhm.
rather pay $20 for this game.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
will wait. But if Nintendo says you have 6 months to buy this game, it's never going to be $20. It's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
it's always going to be $60 or more during that 6 month time. And then once they make all their money from this false scarcity, I 100% believe that they're going to drop those games as separate downloads. And what's even crazier about that is there are people who have bought that All-Star collection, right? Especially if you bought it digitally, right? But I bought the 3D All-Stars collection mostly for Super Mario 64, right? That's the reason I bought the game. I'm going to buy the Super Mario 64 version because that's the game I want to have. Why have all three of them installed on my Switch, taking up the precious real estate on my hard drive, when all I really want to have access to at any time is Super Mario 64? Right. They get their cake and they get to eat it too. It really works for them in that scenario. And let's pretend for a second that I get a physical copy and then I'm like, you know what? The only game I care about this is Super Mario Galaxy. Once it's delisted and I can sell that game on the secondary market and just buy Galaxy, Nintendo still gets that $30 profit. And there's going to be such a flood of people who like, I didn't play 2 other games on this, let me try to make a profit, that you're going to see the price for that go down.
Yeah.
And there's only so many out there that can eat into it, or it's going to be such a cluster fumble to try to get a copy of 3D All-Stars because there's going to be so many on the market that rather than try to find the best price on that, wading through a sea of detritus on eBay, I'll just go to the fucking eShop and buy the games that I want. Like it just
yeah. I know
it's all speculation at this point, but it is one of those situations. And lastly, by holding back Super Mario Galaxy until that time and including it with like all of them being released separately, like over the next few months, this is what's going to happen. But what is available in April is Super Mario Galaxy 2. Every single person who bought that 3D All-Stars pack, even though Nintendo kind of fucking played me here, right? Telling me that I only had 6 months to get this, and now I can get the game maybe that I only wanted this way, right?
Right.
They're still going to buy Super Mario Galaxy 2 because the question outside of why is this a limited release has been, why isn't Super Mario Galaxy 2 there? So they're creating a need to be met a year before that's ever going to happen.
I know, it's genius. It is like, and that's the thing is like, even recognizing what they're doing, you have to applaud it because like I'm in. I'm gonna buy it. I am in no way turned off by this like clearly like businessy move that they're making in all of these different ways. And it's amazing that they were able to garner all of this. And again, with like a 15-minute announcement, they just said, here's what it is. Here's what the price is going to be. Also, it's going to be done by this point, the end, and walked away. And like, that's how you do it. Like that's how you do it. Yeah.
And you let the internet cannibalize itself discussing what you just dropped on the stage. You don't get involved in the conversation, Microsoft.
Right. And the things you didn't say actually become selling points as opposed to just confusion.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those situations that, and honestly, the reason why I pre-ordered that on day one was because I want to play Super Mario Galaxy with a fucking controller. Don't get me wrong, it was a novel control scheme using the nunchuck and the Wiimote, but I want to play that game holding a controller in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough.
And that's where a lot of the work is. And for anybody that's bitching about like how it looks like they haven't done much work graphically to these games, that's because what they did is they did a fuck ton of work making these work on a Switch remote.
Let's talk about the fact that when you play Super Mario 64 on your Switch, it should be a free look camera. If up, down, left, right on the right thumbstick just emulates a C stick, I will be disappointed because it looks like they did the least amount of work on Super Mario 64.
Yeah.
But if you can give me a camera that feels as good as the camera in Mario Odyssey, even with the old polygon work from 1996, that will be enough for me. Because my biggest complaint about Super Mario 64 is the camera. every time and twice on Sunday.
For sure, man. I know. Am I the only one that's excited about Sunshine?
I mean, I'm excited about Sunshine, but Sunshine is strange for a lot of
Yes,
reasons.
for a lot of
And
reasons. Yes.
I like it, but Sunshine, of all of the 3D Marios, doesn't give you free access to the world. One of the things that I really like about Super Mario 64 and then Galaxy, what made me like Galaxy, was you enter an environment and you are free to do things in whatever order you want. Now, granted, some of Super Mario 64 does gatekeep, like there are small gatekeepy moments, but generally, I go into Bob-omb Battlefield, I can get almost every single star just on King Bob-omb up on top of the hill. The only one
Yeah,
I can't get
Sunshine
is the race with
really.
Cooper the Quick.
Yeah. But Sunshine really kind of is built into the story of that game that you cannot do everything at once. You need to complete certain tasks first in order to unlock other parts of their different worlds for sure. Yeah, and I can appreciate that. I just like it. It is a game that is so weird that it holds a place in my heart because of its weirdness. Like, I mean, Flood as a character is fucking bizarre. The mechanics of Flood are weird. The whole worlds that like all the worlds that you go into and cleaning up like the pollution and paint everywhere is just it is so fucking bizarre for a Mario title that that is what gives it such a big warm place in my heart is its weirdness.
Yeah, please don't misunderstand. I will definitely be playing through Super Mario Sunshine again, and I hope with like the patience of age, I can finally 100% the game because it's not 999 moons that I need to collect to do that. I think it's only 120 shines, and certainly
Yeah,
it's going
man.
to be a little bit more difficult than I might recall, but I think that as an adult, I can probably do that. Just like doing it in Super Mario 64, 10-year-old Devin versus 20-year-old Devin when I did it in college, like that was different. There was a huge difference between those two mindsets that I had. And the only reason I don't go back to Super Mario Sunshine is I don't like playing it in standard definition. And it looks like it's going to look a lot nicer on the Switch. And, you know, my other big complaint about Super Mario Sunshine is Flood is such an important part of that game. And there's like a third of the shines require you to do things without Flood. And
Yeah.
at the
Yes, you like
time,
lose Flood and you have to like
you lose Flood and then you have to do all this stuff. And at the time, it felt to me like this is a terrible way to add difficulty to your game, is to take away the mechanics that I have learned and focused on learning just for this one obstacle. But now I understand that that's actually kind of interesting gameplay because it's variety and it varies
Well,
things up.
and I'll be the first to admit, as much as I love Sunshine, they do it better in Super Mario Odyssey with like losing Cappy, and there's definitely those moments where you lose Cappy, and they as I said they just do it much better in that game than they do in Sunshine. So like I've seen them do it better, so I almost think there's probably going to be moments that I'm going to be kind of disappointed because I've seen them do it now better. But I am just excited all around for it. So yeah, like Nintendo doing their announcement stuff a few weeks ago, and it just coming off so nice and so smooth, and it's been great to hear like fans like having these discussions about what about this, what about that. Like I can't believe they're doing this. I'm so excited about that. Even the hate for like, oh, I can't believe it's limited and all that stuff has at least been like fun, like fan criticism. Like there is fun grumpiness to be had as a fan, right? The Xbox stuff has just got me just grumpy, you know, and so like it's just complete opposite. And then meanwhile here I am sitting just not knowing what the fuck is going to happen with PlayStation. So it's a weird time. It's a weird time to be a video game fan. It's a weird time to be a human. It's a weird time to be a video game fan.
It's a weird time to be a fan in general. And if that's not the thesis of this episode, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So, is there anything further you'd like to add before we send this one off to Willie?
Oh, I don't know. There's all sorts of weird stuff going on movie-wise right now. We didn't touch on, this is the week of the release of Mulan, and I don't know if there's anything to even be said about that anymore right now. There's we did our fantastic episode a couple of weeks ago on Bill and Ted, and I think that was the last like good movie news to talk about. I don't know, but no, nothing else, man.
Yeah, and that along that same line, there's some great TV out there. I'm gonna highlight a couple of things. If you happen to have Apple TV and you're not watching Ted Lasso, you're missing out. That show's fantastic. I absolutely love Ted Lasso, and it's where I'm going after this to watch the new episode. I'm also the CW of all channels picked up a Canadian show that in Quebec is called La Forense, which roughly translates to The Coroner. So they just call it Coroner, and it is Serinda Swan. I don't know if you're familiar with her work at all.
No. No.
She played Medusa in the short-lived, ill-fated Inhumans television series.
Oh, okay.
And she also is the female convict in Breakout Kings, which if you're in quarantine and you're looking for something to watch and you have Hulu, watch Breakout Kings. It's fucking awesome. No, it's such a good show. I might rewatch it right now. And also, in the realm of TV, Outmatched. It's only on Hulu for 11 more days, and then it's gone forever. But, Siege and I are going to have a discussion after we're done recording this episode, and that discussion is going to focus heavily on Jason Biggs. And that is Jason Biggs and Maggie Lawson, Juliet from Psych, her most famous role. If I'm wrong about that, please yell at me on the internet. They are parents of gifted children.
Yeah.
And so
their kids are smarter than them, which is the whole joke. Yeah.
The show is excellent. And
excellent.
One of the reasons why CJ and I are going to have that conversation is because if you can get to the 8th episode, they try to make friends with other parents at the private school where they send their older gifted children. And that couple is played by Allison Hannigan and Eddie K. Thomas. So
that's phenomenal.
I mean, sure, it's not Sean William Scott, and Eugene Levy did not play his dad. It was Tony Danza. But, seeing that American Pie, love come through, it really made me want to go back and listen to our American Pie episode, which you can also do. Those are ones that are available only on Spotify, are very special episodes. But yeah, I think that covers everything. Sorry for so much info dump at the end, but I had a lot to share that is happier than a lot of the other topics we touched on during this week. So if you would like to recommend any TV shows I may have not mentioned that hopefully have less than 10 days left on Hulu, you can find me on Twitter at Devin D. Decker.
And if you have any angry corrections about anything that I said about the Xbox stuff, please clarify them for me. This is legitimately me saying, I don't know what we, even after we have talked today, I still don't know what's going on with it. So hit me up at Siege versus the World.
All right. So until next time, William, please bring us on home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Stephen Selwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so it's delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.